Welcome to the fourth evening of Just Be, a group typically for women or people who identify as women, and we've opened it up tonight to whoever would like to come. We have this beautiful stained glass in our sanctuary, and we wanted to have a chance for Rachel to tell us about the stained glass project. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Heidi Koop. I should introduce myself. I'm Sandy Lowen, a member here, and hello. And also the other person who's the co-host of Just Be is Lynette Regier, and she's not able to be here this evening because she's not well. So I wished her well and hoped that she would be feeling better soon, but also thanked her for not sharing her germs with us tonight. It's a tough one. You want to be here, but you need to keep your germs at home, so that's where she is. I will let you know that this evening is being recorded, and so it will be archived, actually, and it'll be on our River East Church website. And I think that's just a great addition to our website for such a project. So I'm going to open with some prayer. Creator God, thank you for this evening. Thank you for each person who's come and those who weren't able to be here and will watch this later with anticipation. Thank you for Rachel and for Danielle, for the people who had this dream and put it on paper and helped to teach people to make it a reality. And also thank you for Heidi Koop, who really had the dream in leaving money in her will to this sanctuary beautification project. Be with us this evening. Amen. So Heidi Koop, she was a member here, I'm going to say, from when we opened back in the 60s. She lived from 1939 to 2002. I'm not going to read you her obituary, but I can make that available to anyone who would like it. I know she had an influence on me and as a woman in our church, and she had an influence on many others. And in a few moments, I'm going to read you a tribute to her from Kathleen Rempel-Boschman. But when I came here to River East in 1981, I was new to the church. I was coming from another church, from Holy Redeemer Roman Catholic Church. And Heidi was one of the people who kind of came alongside me and said hello and made me feel comfortable here. She encouraged me in my work. She encouraged me in my faith growth, in participating in positions here at River East Church. She was a woman who, had she lived a little bit later in time, she would have had a different kind of influence. She was a woman who had the calling to be a minister. And back in that time, it just wasn't accepted in the Mennonite Brethren world. And so she received a good education. She worked in a variety of places. I'm not going to go into those details, but I'm sure there are people here who could tell wonderful stories about Heidi Koop, and I see the smiles on people's faces when I say her name. She had a dream for this place. Could you imagine River East Church back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where the windows were clear, and there wasn't a quilt on the wall and other things that would bring beauty to this place. And she had a dream to make this sanctuary beautiful. And so she spoke with Harold and Naomi Jantz when she wrote her will. And she asked them how she should word it and what she should do and how could she make this happen. And they helped her with making that a possibility through leaving some money to this sanctuary beautification project. And so she had the dream, and then Rachel, you're going to tell us how you picked up on that, you and Danielle, and the work that you did. So if you get a chance, I asked Bert Friesen for a copy of her obituary. I have it here. We can actually put it into the all-church email for people who want to read more about her. But I'm just going to read you information that, a tribute that Kathleen Rempel-Boschman provided to me. Interestingly, Kathleen Rempel-Boschman and I are both physiotherapists. We both trained at the U of M together. And so I'm not going to tell you any of those stories that I have, and she's promised not to tell any stories about me from when we were in university together. But she was a great physiotherapist, a great classmate, but she also had the calling to be a female minister and needed to leave the MB conference to be able to do that, and she was able to do that. So Kathleen Rempel-Boschman, a previous member here at River East Mennonite Brethren Church, as it was called then. She's trained as a physiotherapist, did her theological training and work overseas, has been a reverend at a local church, worked as the manager of spiritual care at Concordia Hospital, and the professional lead of spiritual care services within the WRHA. And Heidi Koop would be so proud to know that that's where she all landed. This is her tribute to her. What a lovely gift Heidi left to River East MB Church, and the church is doing well to recognize her today. Heidi was an encouragement to me. In the 80s, it was puzzling for women to receive a call to the ministry. Women who received a call loved Jesus and the church very much and wanted to serve the church. Some in the church saw it differently. Heidi was older than me and faced many barriers. Still, she encouraged me to follow my call. Being obedient to Jesus was easier for me than it was for Heidi, though it still was not well accepted by many. Heidi encouraged me to persevere. I've now retired from a lifetime of service to Jesus Christ and his church. It has been a joy-filled journey, which I thank Heidi and others like her for encouraging me to follow. She was a woman of deep convictions who loved Jesus. So, just one example of someone who was very much touched and encouraged by Heidi Koop. We also tried to find someone who was related to Heidi, and I did speak with Charlotte Koop, who I actually worked with in the Seven Oaks School Division. She was a teacher of children with additional needs there, and she was hoping to be here tonight, but she can't. And so she's not related from the Koop side. She's related through her mother, and her mother was a cousin to Heidi, and so Charlotte knew her in that way. All right, I'm going to pass this over to Rachel. Rachel, you can tell us about what you're doing now and then carry on with the history of this project. Sure. Thank you so much for coming. Again. At some point, I will read you a poem written by Laurie Matties about the stained glass project that she spoke at the blessing of the stained glass project in 2014. I'll leave that to a bit later. I don't want to take any of your papers.
Oh, sounds good, sounds good. Okay, so I think I'm mic'd here, so I can put this here. How's that? Okay. Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you. Thanks for coming. What a treat. And thanks to those who invited me to come and share the story of how this incredible stained glass project came to be. I'm honored to be here among family and among very good friends here at River East. And for those who maybe don't know me, my name is Rachel Baerg, and I serve as head of education and public programs at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, Kalmayuk. But I've been there for about 15 years, I guess. I also teach history of art at CMU. And I'm a musician and also a Sure. How's that? Is that better? Okay, it's a little less echoey. Thank you. So again, I'm Rachel Baerg, and I teach history of art at CMU, and I'm a musician and also a multidisciplinary artist when I have time. So I had the distinct privilege and honor of working with an incredible team who spearheaded the project of the stained glass windows and really saw it to its fruition and completion. I should mention from the start here that I'm going to be telling this story from my own memory and perspective. The windows are about 11 years old, so if I miss anything, I'm calling upon those of you who were involved in the project. I see many familiar faces here. Please feel free to pipe in, of course. At the end, I'll leave some time. We'll have time to share, and I would welcome you to join in, share your experiences and perspectives about the project as well. So, okay, right from the get-go, I just want to honor my main creative partner, Danielle, who was unable to be here today, unfortunately, but she played such an important role in the project as well, and I'll be getting to that as well as I tell the whole story. But I'm sad that she's not here sitting beside me. In any case, the story of these beautiful stained glass windows goes way back. It goes back to about 2002. Seems like an age ago, so long ago. It was at that time that I found myself, I was on the River East Visual Committee alongside Irene Enns. I don't know if Irene is here today, and Trish Dick. I think I saw Trish. Trish, are you here? Oh, well, you were on the committee with us, were you not? No? Okay. I thought you were, but for sure Irene Enns was. And the three of us were, or the two of us, were creative souls. We did our best to bring visual inspiration to Sunday morning services, especially Christmas and Easter. Some simply called us the decorative committee, but we didn't like that so much because we wanted to bring much more than decoration to the sanctuary. We had a lot of fun, and in my estimation, we did a pretty good job. I particularly remember one Easter season for which we sewed and installed a large, bright yellow banner down the center aisle of the sanctuary from the back to the front. It was beautiful, and it kind of, led the eye to this beautiful flowered cross at the front. And it felt like such an ambitious thing to do. It was the most ambitious project we had done that far. But little did we know that the mega project that was coming before us in the years to come. So in 2002, Heidi Koop passed away, and we're so very grateful for Heidi. It was wonderful to hear more about her tonight and to have the chance to really honor her here tonight as well. After her passing, the Visual Committee was informed of her generous donation. We were told she had designated a sum of $2,000 to be used towards some kind of permanent artwork in the River East Sanctuary. And it was her wish that the money would go towards funding a project that would beautify the sanctuary and have significant meaning for the church and for the community. We thought long and hard about what we might do with the money because we wanted it to go towards something substantive and permanent. We gave ourselves lots of time to explore ideas. And we asked ourselves, should we commission new furniture maybe, a new altar table, maybe a new podium, maybe a large painting in the front of the sanctuary? Well, none of these ideas really resonated fully with us. And I think something was actually prompting us to dream bigger. We decided not to jump into a project right away, but to let the ideas percolate. And the monies sat in the account for several years. Actually, to be honest, some of us even forgot about the gift. Life was busy. But then in 2009, I was still serving on the Visual Committee. The church accountant reminded us of Heidi's wish and the funds that she had set aside, and something reawakened in us. Was this the time to revisit a potential project? At one of our committee meetings, I shared a wild idea. What about stained glass windows? I mean, maybe one or two, or what if we could do all the windows? Like, can you imagine? The sanctuary would be filled with color and with light. The seed was germinating in us, only we had a small dilemma. $2,000, albeit with some interest by this point, wouldn't go too far. If we were looking at a stained glass project, we'd definitely need some more funds. We began to share this dream with other church members, and almost immediately we received ideas, suggestions. What about we do a series of fundraising events? Let's raise some money. This was a great idea, and it was a game changer. And over the next 2 to 3 years, various members offered fundraising events. Rachel Baerg and Bonnie Lowen held a recital called The Habits of Hands. Sometime later, Sarah Jane held a recital at the church. And I think we also held 1 or 2 pie auctions, these famous pie auctions we do here in the basement. In any case, by 2012, we were at $6,000. That was pretty good. At this point, I actually connected with Prairie Stained Glass. I mean, how much would we be looking at to do a stained glass project? For all the windows, you know, there are 10 narrow windows on each side of the sanctuary, 20 in all. Prairie Glass was generous. They actually came down here. They helped us estimate material costs. It was in the range of $10,000. Well, we weren't that far off. What's $4,000? Once we pitched this idea of the stained glass windows, and we shared the financial challenge that we had in meeting the needs, again, church members immediately showed their support, and in no time, we had raised the extra monies. It's amazing. We hit $10,000. Okay, so we had the money, but what were we doing? What exactly were we going to embark? How are we going to embark on this gigantic project? Where do we start? It was decided we should gather a steering committee or an advisory group to help strategize and develop a theological, thematic framework for the imagery. What do we want the windows to represent? What role would they serve in the sanctuary? A steering committee of 5 of us was formed, and we met several times. It was myself, Irene Enns, Sarah Clausen, also here tonight, Lori and Gordon Maddies. And in looking back, I actually found the files of our meeting minutes from November 4th, 2012. And at that point during that meeting, we defined the objective of the project as this. The purpose was to collaborate as a church and to engage in a meaningful, challenging art project that would allow individuals to creatively express a shared faith, to build and foster meaningful relationships, and to facilitate a transformative hands-on experience for all those involved. We mapped out 2 phases. Number 1, the design phase, and number 2, the construction phase. To be honest, we really didn't have a sense of how long this might take, because it was all so new to us. But it was recommended that we begin the design phase as soon as possible. And this was a challenging time. It was difficult to know where to start, and there was definitely some fear and trepidation. Though we had the $10,000, that was the estimate to cover our material costs. So we didn't have any money to hire a glass designer or an experienced stained glass artist, and we realized at that point we would have to do the design work ourselves. So I personally felt the weight of carrying this project a little bit in the beginning. There was no turning back, and by now everyone was more than excited. We were committed. I had my fine arts degree. I could draw, and I was serious about photography, pottery. I taught art history, but I had no experience with stained glass. So what were we doing? As an advisory group, we began exploring potential thematic ideas and biblical themes, like God, the light of the world, Emmanuel, God with us. We liked the ideas of layers of symbolism and rich references to creation and to the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. But how would we express these ideas or these concepts with colored glass? Unlike historical stained glass windows in European cathedrals and worship spaces around the world, we wanted to do things differently. We wanted to be a little more contemporary in our approach, and we wanted to avoid literal representations or biblical scenes. The concept of the garden and the story of creation was inspiring for me personally. Of course, the garden holds profound symbolic significance throughout the Bible, representing themes of paradise, of provision, intimacy with God, spiritual growth. If you think from the Garden of Eden in Genesis to the prophetic or poetic books of Isaiah, many references in the Song of Solomon, and finally the book of Revelations, the garden and garden imagery actually serves as a powerful metaphor for God's relationship with humanity. The garden becomes a meeting point or a place of ultimate reconciliation. So feeling in part a sense of inspiration and in part serious panic to get moving with the project, something prompted me to start sketching. I had several long, thin rolls of IKEA kids sketching paper in our basement. I grabbed a roll and I began drawing long, organic, flowing lines with a pencil. Out of the flowing lines emerged tangled and tethered roots, what looked like foliage, kelp, plants and trees pushing upward with creative energy. I began to imagine fish and other living organisms, circular cells emerging among the foliage. The book of Genesis seemed to be unfolding. Leaves became a habitat for birds. A large dove, could that be a prefiguration of something? Then stars appeared, light. The daily cycle of the rising sun and the moon seemed to be the perfect crown at the top of each window in the series. On another scroll, new forms of flora and fauna were unraveling, sometimes revealing hidden buds or petals, even flowers. The idea of God's miraculous multiplication, seeds conceived inside of seeds, cells inside of cells, a revelation of so many miracles, invisible and in hidden places. God's perfect plan, nature magnificently recreating itself. It's a prophetic provision for all living things. As I continued on another scroll, human forms began to unravel from within the leaves and the buds, eventually multiplying into families. I felt inspired. I started sketching out quite a few paper scrolls and filled them with imagery, but at the same time, the magnitude of the project really overwhelmed me. There were 20 columns of 12-foot windows, each with 5 partitions, which meant there were 100 windows. There were 100 designs that needed to be, 100 sketches that needed to be created, and I needed creative support. Enter Danielle. I had heard of her, and apparently she, like me, was fond of art and of making art. Maybe she could help me complete all the sketches. We met in the church basement on a Saturday evening. I think it was the winter of 2012, and I unrolled some of my IKEA scrolls for her. I think she thought I was nuts. As I handed her a tin of black crayons from the kids' church cabinets, I just said, let's just go for it. Just let the lines flow. We worked beautifully together. And before I knew it, all of the imagery for the north side panels were finished. And then we created the mirror images for the south side panels. And to this day, I believe we were led by a creative power greater than ourselves. So thank you, Lord. We worked efficiently and everything was coming together. We tweaked the overall design, taking several hardcore creative sessions, and then we presented the drawings to the advisory committee. The drawings passed the test. Everyone seemed thrilled with them, so it was another hallelujah moment. We reached out to Prairie Stained Glass and we showed them all of our IKEA scrolls. They were incredibly supportive, and they actually recommended a few tweaks. For example, each window had to be divided into reasonable pieces or sizes for cutting and for leading. Right, we hadn't thought about that. Back to the design. So the overall design was tweaked again, imagery was finalized, and we felt relieved. However, the design was actually far from being complete. We had not yet considered color. So in the summer of 2013, that was the summer of color, the summer of color considerations. I actually picked up from Prairie Stained Glass about 100 or more colored glass samples. And families and friends can actually attest to my parents' cottage windows being filled with long rectangular pieces of different colored glass. There were samples from Italy, some very expensive samples from France, others made in Canada or the US. All of them had different price points, different colored dots, and had to work with this color scheme. It had to be developed, and of course we had to stay in budget too. So, you had to use the expensive glass very wisely. So days and days were spent coding each piece of the design on the large scrolls. It kind of looked like a paint by number. And there was much contemplation over the entire design. Of course, we had to consider it had to be read like a continuous story. There had to be a unity between the pieces, one window flowing into the next. There were light blues, medium blues, dark lapis lazuli, ambers and ochres, reds and greens of many shades. And you learn this in art school. You've always got to consider the color wheel and the complementary colors, right? You want to choose colors that are going to sing beautifully next to each other. So complementary colors, greens and reds, blues and yellows, or blues and oranges. So a mix of warm and cool. So the committee had also really suggested this idea of the colors moving from sort of dark into light. So this idea of this journey from dark into the light. So we tried to capture that as well in choosing the colors. And I recall praying very hard over these color choices. Lord, only you know what this is going to look like in the end. It was very hard to sort of get a sense of the big picture, right? So there was a lot of faith involved as we were making these decisions. After the summer, and once the color scheme for the windows was established, we worked with Prairie Stained Glass to order the glass sheets. And Danielle became our glass queen. She tracked the shipments, the arrivals of the various sheets of colored glass from all over the world, and she made sure that we had enough color to start the project, enough of each color. In the meantime, we were gearing up for the construction phase. And wow, we knew that we could never in a million years build the windows without a dedicated and courageous team of volunteers. So it was in March 2013, about a year after we had started the design process, that we invited anyone who was interested in becoming part of this project to join us. To our amazement, about 20 to 25 people volunteered. Wow, we now had a committed guild of glaziers. Shortly after, the DeFair family graciously agreed to secure a perfect workshop space for the project in one of the Palliser buildings, just close by. Again, another godsend. As for the amazing team of volunteers, we were all novices, so we arranged for everyone to take a series of workshops at Prairie Stained Glass with the owners, Brian and Lucinda. They introduced us to the tools that we would need, and they taught us the basic techniques that we needed to master. And this was a steep learning curve. There were so many steps. They demonstrated how to cut the glass, how to grind the edges, then how to fit the pieces together like a puzzle. They showed us how to secure the edges of glass into lead rods and then to solder the metal seams together. This work was not for the faint at heart. And following the soldering, there was cementing and drying and scrubbing. This was the messy work. And then, of course, at the end, we had to ensure that all the glass was securely held in place. So the whole process would require practice and more practice. The cutting alone just required so much patience and precision and a lot of Band-Aids for everybody's fingers. Only Danielle would know how many boxes of Band-Aids we went through, but there were many. But the team was fearless and dedicated, and our newly assigned stained glass guild or atelier was officially stocked with tools and sheets of beautiful glass in crates. Danielle and others organized various workstations and developed systems for translating the design sketches into arrangements of cut glass puzzle pieces. The team was absolutely amazing, and I have to say, they are the true heroes of this project. Danielle, Trish, Gordon, Lori, Jerry, Carla and Jubilee, Joan and Randy Baker, Lori Bond, Irene and Ron, as well as my parents, Bill and Irmgard, were all involved. And I thought it would be nice if maybe for a moment we could just acknowledge you, if you would stand, the builders of these glass windows. Yeah, amazing. Thank you, thank you. This is the team that built the windows and brought the project to life. And I hope I didn't forget anybody. But this brave team started officially building the windows in the spring of 2013. They were divided into two teams. There was Team Tuesday and Team Thursday. And as I remember it, Team Tuesday was led by Trish, and Team Thursday led by Danielle and Lori. Danielle became our support artist in residence, our master organizer and coordinator, ensuring that the team had everything they needed. The windows were numbered and assigned to certain couples or certain individuals. Progress was tracked. When you finished your window, there was a nice check mark beside your name, and every team member continued to encourage one another through the whole process. I wasn't there as much in this stage of the game, but I understand that there were some very interesting conversations as the glass was being cut and trimmed, and a bit of healthy competition too, which is good. There was also some glass breakage, I was told, to be expected. We learned quickly that to ensure that every glass cutter would first practice with glass scraps and not start with the most expensive sheets from France. The Guild of Artists worked intensely for months, and through the spring, the summer, the fall, and the winter of 2013, 2 evenings a week for 10 to 12 months. So once all the north side windows were done, they had to create the mirror image of those windows for the south side. And this was painstaking work, and each of the volunteers grew to be accomplished glass artisans. Although the team was trained to follow the overall design, each window builder had to make creative decisions as they were working, often having to slightly alter the design to accommodate unforeseen technical challenges. During the construction phase, Sarah Jane created a blog, and she took pictures of the team in action. And I actually have a PowerPoint here with images, so I can show you some of them. So you can see the artisans. Oh, have you? Oh, look at that. Okay, that's great. So I can't take credit for these pictures. These are from Sarah Jane from her blog, but here you can see, I can maybe start from the beginning and explain a little bit about them too. If we go, if you go back to the beginning. So this was one of the original concept drawings. You can see all my scribbled notes there. But the idea was that the rising sun, the setting sun, that the cycle of life, the cycle of light, each day would sort of be, celebrated at the top of each window, and that the light would basically, and the colors would basically go from darker to lighter, from cooler to warmer. So you'll see the red tones, the orange tones, the yellow tones towards the front as well. So this was just a basic concept drawing for us to visualize what this might look like. This is a before picture, as Sandy was mentioning. Can you imagine the sanctuary without glass? That's what it looked like. And I think this is interesting because for a couple of Christmases, I think, as the visual committee, we tried to emulate stained glass windows by putting colored tissue over the, do you remember that? Some of you are laughing. Yes, we did that. And you can see there in the corner in the front, there's a blue sort of cellophane cover. So we were experimenting with this, but we weren't quite ready for the stained glass. But that's what it looked like originally. This is what I talked about when we were, Danielle and I first met in the basement. And I presented some of the scrolls I had done, and there was still a lot of work to do. That's basically what it looked like, these IKEA scroll pieces. We look so young there. And you can see how we kind of conceptually put the different pieces together. I would Scotch tape different sketches so that, again, there was this feeling of progression from the bottom to the top, that there was unity, that there was a sense of continuation, a continuation of a kind of story. And so this is how we worked. Prairie Studio Glass. Of course, we worked with them so much And they were incredibly helpful to us. They actually gave us a good discount on the glass too, and were more than willing to help us learn the craft, right? Yeah, this was one of our first days when we were in the studio in the Palliser building, and we had this beautiful designated space. You can see here the man with the striped shirt was Brian from Prairie Glass, and he was showing us, giving us a first time 101, stained glass 101. And you can see, you know, all of us keeners listening, how are we going to do this? We had great conversations initially. Here you can see Jerry, and well, there's a couple of us, Lori, Trish, and I, but you can also see the crate that says fragile glass, right? And this is how we stored the glass. We had sheets of it, and in between we had kind of paper padding so that there'd be no breakage. But you can imagine all of the back and forth and the careful transportation that had to take place. These were the color samples. And like I said, I think I knew every color number from memory at the end of the summer. 52, that's what it was. Yep, we're doing 52. So beautiful, inspiring colors. And it was so nice, like I said, at my parents' cottage, I had them in the window so I could just really have easy access to it and see how the color progression would actually work out. And this was another stage of the design where, you know, I actually cut out pieces and pieced them together, imagining that, you know, every piece would have to be cut separately, considering those things. I really loved the family images. That was my favorite, I think. Here's Irene. I'm sorry she's not here today because she was such a big part of this journey. That she, looks like here she's explaining how the pattern is supposed to be read and the color numbers. So you can see the sketch of one of the half of the suns as she's working on. And here others you can see the process here of them cutting the different glass, putting it together. There Joan is working on the grinder. It's great. And here again, like a puzzle, you know, each of the pieces had to fit properly. And then of course, you know, you'd want to make sure that no one touched your pieces, right? That would be a big problem. I think by and large, everyone kept theirs pretty organized, so we didn't have any issues that way. But that was precious. Once you cut a piece of glass, it was yours. You didn't want anyone taking it. So here's Joan and Randy, and they're nailing the glass actually on top of the design to ensure that everything will fit. So yeah, and then putting the lead rods in. Some of you will recall how taxing that was too. And then soldering, I talked about that. So once you had the lead rods, you'd have to solder with a soldering gun. Here we can see different members of the team doing that, Lori and Gordon working together as well. And then came the cementing, and that was messy, where you actually had to put this powder. Yeah, the makers are doing it. Yeah, they're nodding their heads. So you had to put that on, then it had to sit for a while. And then you would actually clean it off, and that would help to set the lead. Here we have some finished windows by various members. So my dad, see, now you know which glass. I always say to the makers, do you know which windows? Do you remember which ones you made? And here another window too, just beautiful. And there's Danielle there. On the last slide to the right, very involved in like overseeing the production of all the windows. So we couldn't have done this without her. Oh, I put this up too because this is a work by Matisse, a French artist, French contemporary artist. And when I was first contemplating the designs, he was a source of inspiration for me because he created this chapel near the end of his life. And it was a very contemporary approach, interpretation of nature, and I thought it was a beautiful example. So those are the slides. But I have to say, I'll just finish the story quickly and then we can open it up for others to share their experience or if you have any questions. But it was just before the Christmas of 2013, we were really excited to install some of the first finished windows at the very back of the sanctuary. We wanted to see how they looked in the space, and it was the moment of truth. So the sunlight streaming through the glass was breathtaking. We could actually see the design coming to life. And that was so exciting. And over the new year, we slowly installed the windows one by one from the back of the room to the front. And it was like a new revelation every Sunday morning when members entered the sanctuary. And so by the spring of 2014, all 100 windows were completed and installed. And we held a dedication service for the windows on March in 2014. So all 100 windows had been completed in roughly 2 years, the project. So, while I can't speak for the various individuals of the entire team who brought this project to its completion, I think that we would all agree that this project was likely one of the most challenging things we had ever worked on. But it was also truly a gift, a labor of love, of learning, and a testament to the power of community and collaboration and faith. Together, we created something beautiful and meaningful that will stand as a symbol of our shared journey with God for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. So informative with the dates, with the whole process. For me, I actually never thought of those top panels being the way you described them, like the light coming through in a light way. And yeah, beautiful. I will definitely be sitting and looking at them and pondering them in a new way now, and I hope that you will as well. You talked about the celebration in March of 2014, and I think it was Dawn who knew that Laurie Matties had written a poem or a prayer in the form of a poem for that celebration. And she's not able to be here today. There's so many people who wanted to be here today, so I'm thankful that it's being recorded. And thank you, Gerald Regier, for all the work that you're doing on that. Much appreciated. So Laurie sent me the poem, and I'm going to read that for you. And she would have really liked to have been here, as I said before. So she calls it the Stained Glass Prayer. And just maybe close your eyes and think of it as you think of the pictures that you've seen and the story that you've told. I've read it a number of times, and it's really perfect. Shards of glass safely sheathed in leaden borders, refuse to bleed, begin again. Small shapes summoned into strictured glory, tell a splintered prisming story, begin again. Turn away, see sun's rings commingle, each blood-red, blue-green stain across every worn wood pew. Join a guild of window builders. Trace each line with diamond edge, then, breathless, watch the miraculous parting of molten sand. Every sharp shape shimmers into place, unless a rogue curve carves a different route. Shattering, plan again. Plan the design. Circumscribed shapes faced full on convey a concrete image, but peripheral vision transforms. One kind of sand into something wholly other. Every body bathed in blended light. Each mind attends, clarifies, refined by sight. Begin again. By Laurie Matties. What a beautiful poem. So if anyone here who was involved in the project and was part of the guild, If you have any comments to make, please come forward, or I can bring you the microphone. Or if you have questions for Rachel, and as she said, it's too bad that Danielle couldn't be here because you were such a good team together. I definitely remember that as well. Danielle really downplayed her part in this when we emailed back and forth, and it was like, I know you were a big part of this. So we will thank her as well. So any questions or comments from anyone?
Just a little comment. It was really a great experience. And in fact, it was kind of sad when it was finished. You know, it was really a beautiful thing. And I think someone whom you forgot to mention was Connie. She was, yeah, there's probably more. I don't know if there's any here. Like Don was just amazing. He was just a fabulous glass setter. It was fantastic. That's it.
Anyone else? Memories? 2014, so that's 11 years now.
As a person who comes to this church all the time and sees this glass, there's a sense in which you take it for granted. And this is valuable for me to hear the story of its creation. And Rachel, you've done such a good job of telling that story, and that'll stay with us for a long time. Thank you.
I can just also comment, I'm not very regular at the prayer shawl ministry, or I haven't been the last few years. However, many of the stained glass windows were made into cards, and I know that I have given many of those cards to people, and even from different faiths. I select which one it is, but it can fit many different faiths. And they're beautifully printed. I think Danielle did that as well. I think she coordinated, maybe Heidi did, I can't remember now. But one of them coordinated that as well, so that I don't know whether they still are for sale in the office, but if they aren't, we should maybe print some more.
I know that I have a package of 10 of them at home, and they're not expensive either, so maybe we should get that going again. But that's a great idea. Yeah, I also give those cards to people, and like you, think about which card would be most appropriate for the person receiving it. Yeah. I guess the other thing is that if you drive by at night, the lights are on here in the sanctuary, and you can see them at night as well. And I have a family member that lives down McLeod and says, sometimes I'll just drive by to see it because it's so nice to see the lights from the outside. So I don't know if you were thinking of that when it was done, but it's quite beautiful on the outside as well. So another way to look at the stained glass. Well, from the Just Be group, we want to thank you. It's too bad that Lynette also can't be here this evening, Lynette Regier, the co-host of the group with me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Rachel. We have something for you. I just want to give that to you now. I will say I picked one of the cards from that pack of 10 to write your thank you note, and we have some flowers here for you as well. We thought you would really like color.
Yes.
And so you probably have a number for each of the colors in the flowers that are here today. But it's a plant, so you can enjoy it for a long time.
Thank you.
So let's just thank Rachel one more time.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you so much. Oh, it's beautiful. Awesome.
There's still some